Welcome to Time of Death. This video is for informational purposes and in no way meant to glorify or condone violence. In today's video, we'll be discussing the murder of Andrew Lee Bender. Bender was shot and killed on Monday, December 6, 2021 in the 16,000 block of South Harris Avenue in East Compton, according to LA County coroner records. Lawrence Stackhouse was subsequently arrested and charged with the murder. The following is the evidence at trial. Defendant Stackhouse shot and killed victim Andrew Bender on December 6, 2021. The victim's mechanic witnessed the shooting. The mechanic worked with Big Sip and lived in a trailer located behind Big Sip's house in Compton. Several of Big Sip's family members resided in the house with him, including his son Little Sip, Little Sip's half-brother, and Big Sip's niece. The house was located in an area claimed by the Kelly Park Compton Crips. The victim was Little Sip's cousin. The victim was affiliated with the neighborhood Compton Crips. He was around 50 years old at the time of the shooting. At trial, the mechanic provided the testimony that follows concerning defendant's confrontation with the victim and the shooting. On December 5, 2021, the victim drove to the mechanic's residence to have work done on his SUV. Around noon, the victim drove the mechanic to get parts for the SUV. Before leaving the mechanic's residence, a young man known to be a Kelly Park Crip gang member walked up to the victim in the driveway and said, "I heard you killed my father." The victim responded, "I didn't kill your father, but I was in the car with the men that did." The victim then stated, "But that's past me now. I'm moving forward. I don't want to talk about that no more." While driving to the store in the victim's SUV, the mechanic watched as the victim retrieved a small semi-automatic gun out of the center console. The mechanic asked the victim what was wrong. The victim replied, "There's nothing going on," and he put the gun to the side of the seat. The mechanic and the victim drove back to the mechanic's residence where they saw defendant and defendant's Dodge Charger parked in the driveway. The mechanic had never met defendant, but heard he was an old-time gangster from the Kelly Park Compton Crips. Several Kelly Park Compton Crip gang members were talking outside the home. The mechanic saw defendant speaking with Big Sip's niece in the driveway while he and the victim walked to the backyard. The victim left the backyard, returned to his SUV in the driveway, and retrieved his gun. He walked past defendant and Big Sip's niece, kind of staring at defendant and mad-dogging him. The victim's gun was at his side, pointed down. The mechanic went inside the house to tell Big Sip there was a problem outside. When the mechanic went back outside, Big Sip's niece told him the victim was tripping. The mechanic told defendant he better watch his back. Defendant Stackhouse pulled out a gun from his waistband, laid it on the hood of his vehicle, and said, "That man don't like me." Defendant's gun appeared to be a 40 or 45 caliber semi-automatic pistol. Angry with the situation, defendant got in his car and drove away. The victim stayed in the backyard waiting for the mechanic to resume working on his SUV. Around 8 a.m. the following day, the victim woke the mechanic up so that he could continue working on the SUV. The victim sat on a pile of bricks as the mechanic worked under the vehicle, his feet hanging out the front end. Due to police activity in the area around 8:15, the victim decided to put his gun up by placing it in a plastic tub under clothes behind the truck in the driveway. Around 8:30 a.m., the mechanic heard the sound of defendant's Dodge Charger and looked west toward the street. He saw defendant's vehicle drive past the house and make a U-turn. The mechanic sat up from under the victim's SUV as defendant parked in front of the driveway. Defendant got out of his car and the mechanic saw that he had a gun. The mechanic watched as the victim began running away from where he was sitting. As the victim stepped onto the driveway to run away, defendant shot him once in the back. The mechanic testified that once the victim had been shot, he turned around, put his hands up, and defendant walked him down and shot him 3 more times in the stomach and chest from a distance of 3 to 4 feet. The victim did not have anything in his hands at the time. Defendant shot the victim as the victim was backing away. The mechanic asked defendant, "What the fuck are you doing, man?" Defendant responded, "You alright?" which the mechanic understood as a direction to say nothing about what he had witnessed. Defendant then left in his car. An LA County Sheriff deputy arrived at the scene and saw paramedics transporting the victim to a hospital. The victim died during emergency surgery. A medical examiner who performed the victim's autopsy testified that 3 of the 4 gunshot wounds the victim sustained were fatal. About 3 months after the shooting, the mechanic provided a statement to an LA County Sheriff's sergeant. The mechanic identified the defendant as the shooter from a 6-pack photographic lineup. In August of 2022, defendant was arrested at his mother's house. A search of a car defendant was seen driving the day of his arrest revealed a 9mm Luger. Law enforcement searched defendant's home the same month. Officers found a bulletproof vest and a ski mask. Inside the ski mask was a 9mm semi-automatic firearm. Based on GPS information extracted from defendant's vehicle, the vehicle was in the South Los Angeles County area where Compton is located on the day and at the time of the murder between 7:59 a.m. and 8:26 a.m. Cell phone data from the phone retrieved from defendant during his arrest indicated the phone used 2 cell towers near the scene of the shooting on December 5th and 6th, 2021. Detective Arthur Garcia opined that defendant Stackhouse is an active gang member from the Kelly Park Compton Crips, based on defendant's text messages, transcripts of an interview with Big Sip's niece, and a transcript of a call defendant made while in jail. Detective Garcia further opined that whenever a gang member is disrespected and does not do anything, it's going to affect the way they stand in the gang. Defendant Stackhouse was charged with premeditated murder and possession of a firearm by a felon, including a gun enhancement. The trial commenced in December of 2022. Following the trial, the jury convicted defendant as charged and found true the gun enhancement. The court sentenced him to a total of 31 years to life. Andrew Lee Bender was 43 years old at the time of death.